Hi guys, in this video we're going to be looking at some 15mm picked warriors from Copplestone Castings / North Star military figures, but I'll be using them for 28mm.
Scruffy Crow.
So yeah, these are from North Star, who are rapidly becoming my favourite source of all things nerd. I love that they throw in a little flyer. I still need somewhere to pin these up. So these are from Mark Copplestone Collection, 15mm range. And I've had 9 some of these. I've picked up some of the Barbarians in the past because they are fabulous little sculpts. Now what I'm using these for is going to be Saga and anything else I can fit them in. Now, so in the Lords of the Wild section of the book, there is special rules for the Swarm. So the base has to be the size of an ordinary infantry base. And it represents an individual, even if it's possible to model it with several animals in the case of snakes. And I thought that's a pretty cool idea, but what kind of swarm do I want? Now, the theme of my sort of army, my wider army, so not just my Saga one, but my Oathmark one and everything, is a sort of, I kind of want like a bit of an enchanted forest, ancient English sort of fey feel to it all. So we've got the sort of heavy on the rangers, we've got the earthy colours, we're going to have Ents, halflings, ogres even. Sort of all different, these sort of fantasy races all sort of co-existing. So yeah, why not sort of fairies or pixies? And I also got heavily influenced by the Pictsies from Terry Pratchett's books. But these are a little bit more thuggish than that. So this is the character box, and we've got some guys wearing some little skulls. No trouble focusing here. We've got some female characters. Sort of guy with a big hammer, shaman, some guys with drums, that's pretty cool. And a big boss type looking fella. Now I'm not going to do a lot of conversions, but I think I'm going to swap this guy's triple mini skulls with one sort of 28mm human sized skulls, just to try and base the whole unit into sort of a the 28mm scale. So I don't mind the fact that most of them are carrying around pixie skulls, because maybe they have interwarring tribes, you know, that's the same size as their skull, so I'm happy with that as a thing. Same with the bones, it also explains why they have enormous bones kicking around. So yeah, and then we've got the Picked Warriors box. And I'm going to give everyone in the Picked Warriors box, well, sorry, I'm going to give each one of the heroes their own sort of warrior to go with them. So we've all got 2 to a base. Okay, so we're going to have 10 pairs, and then this big guy and the wizardy looking fella, they're going to be on their own bases to give me enough for 12. And we've got these 25mm MDF bases that I'm going to pop them on. Okay, so I've done the little swap with the skull there. I think that's looking pretty cool. These are out of the Games Workshop skull box, which I still think is a pretty cool product. And I was looking at this guy. He's got like a saber-tooth cat head, and it's kind of hard to justify that in the scale. And I wanted to do something else cool. This guy, instead of the wizard, actually, this guy's going to be kicking around on his base on his own as well. So I'm taking my clippers, and I'm being pretty brutal here. I'm taking the fangs off the front. And then I'm going to clip the whole sort of saber cat head off. So we've still got a little bit of his chin and his hair sticking out, but most of the top of his head's missing. Just going to neaten this chin part up with my knife while it's exposed. Just removing where the fangs were. I'm just going to give the top of this just a flatten off. So I've dug this out of the box like a crow skull, a bird skull. So compared to a 28mm guy, that'd be a fairly reasonable sized bird. So a worthy prey and trophy for this guy. Okay, so it's not quite as neat as I wanted. Probably going to remove a little bit more material, but that's basically what we're going for. Instead of that saber cat skull, we're going to have this crow skull on there. Okay, I've got all these guys based up, and I changed my mind about quite a few things. First of all, I went for these plastic bases rather than the wooden ones. That's just because these will match the rest of my force a little bit better. I also put the wizard on a base with someone else and gave Birdhead his own base. And yeah, and I did do the putty in the end. Mostly just because, like, between the two bases, I didn't want that to go like up and down, and like you'd see the sort of the valleys between the two bases. So yeah, that's smoothed that all out. So next step is going to be a layer of sand and then an undercoat. Okay, these guys have had a quick blast of Halford's Grey primer and are looking pretty fantastic. So next stage is I'm using this McCrag blue, and I've got a big puffy brush here. I'm just putting a little bit on the edge of the bristles, just a tiny amount, and then I'm just going to dab that into all of the nooks and crannies. And it won't take too long at all to get through these like this. We've got full-on Smurfs with these guys. Okay, so I've given these guys a couple of dry brushes now, just mixing from the McCrag blue through to the Morrow white here. I think these are coming out quite nicely. Starting to pick out some of the details. I think I'm going to do one more dry brush, even lighter, a really faint one, just try and get the faces to really pop. And then I might have to go in with the detail brush and just finish up any little tiny details we want in anywhere. Okay, so I've touched up a few random areas, but mostly I've just given them a much lighter dry brush than I even thought would be required. And I think that's looking pretty cool. And that's brought out all the details I want and given them a pretty cool, nice blue skin tone. Obviously everything's blue at the moment, so next up I'm going to have to go around and pick out all of the details. I'm going to go for dark fur. I'm going to do all the skulls in sandy dust. I'm going to try and keep the palette quite small. We'll do all the wood parts in Idrim Flesh to start with, and hopefully that'll start to sort of bring out the skin tone even more when we've got those details filled in. I think I'm going to do their hair as well. I think I'm going to do that white, like stark white, to try and give that proper Smurfy contrast, just because I think that'll work quite nicely. Okay, I'm going to leave these guys here for a little while. We've got Rhinox hide on the bases and all the fur, and I've got Idrim Flesh on all the clubs. I've also gone around and done any hair in Celestial Grey, because that'll be, yeah, and then I'll dry brush all of that white, try and make that stand out. And already the skin tone's making a bit more sense visually, as being part of just their skin rather than everything. I'm actually really enjoying painting these little guys. Okay, I've been working on these guys now a little bit more, and I think they've come out pretty nice. So after the wash on all the browns, I gave the fur a bit of Bugman's Glow. I've given all the skulls and like teeth and stuff. A bit of Menoth base and Menoth highlight. Sort of my normal bony sort of colours. All the stone parts, I went for a Mechanicus Standard Grey and Celestia Grey. Try and bring the stony parts out. And the leather, yeah, obviously I all got the Agrax Earthshade in there, so I think these little belts and things have turned out really nicely, I think. The base has all got my normal combination of bootstrap leather and Menoth base. And when I was sort of dry brushing this, some of the bottoms of their legs ended up that little bit muddy, but I think that actually kind of works. It almost kind of grounds the models into the floor a little bit. I quite like that, because obviously they would have dirty feet. This is the only bit of metal in the whole unit. I found this little salvaged axe. I'm going to give that a highlight. Something a little bit like that, just some little sharpened bits. I think that looks cool. And then I've started, as you can see here, I've started putting some tufts on. I'll add some grass and some other little bits and pieces, and then they'll be all finished. Okay, I think they're all finished up now, and they are looking fantastic. I'm really happy with them. There's our bird-headed guy. I'm happy with the way the bones come out. Quite like the female ones. I think that's a pretty cool sort of look. I think the blue skin is working out nicely. That's exactly what I was looking for. They do look kind of magical and fey, but then because we've got all the browns, and I think because we've kept everything else fairly neutral, and then with the bases I've done, I think they, still look like they could exist in that world. And I think when they go into battle with things alongside like my sorcerer, to give them the sort of scale and plant them in that sort of 28mm scale, they do look like fantastic little pixies. I think that's the look I was going for. So I'm really happy with them. So I don't think I've got any use for them in Oathmark, but I'll still try and keep an eye out in case there is anywhere I can fit them in. But that is one more point towards my Saga warband. And that's all for this video. Please let me know what you thought down in the comments. Maybe subscribe for more. And as ever, thanks for watching. Bye.